Before a single word ever leaves your mouth, something far more powerful has already spoken for you. Every woman you encounter feels your emotional state instantly. She senses whether you are relaxed or tense, confident or uncertain, grounded or seeking validation. This happens at a subconscious level faster than logic, faster than thought. You don't need clever lines or perfect timing when your internal state is already communicating strength. Attraction begins in silence because energy travels ahead of language. Most men misunderstand attraction because they believe it starts with what they say. They think confidence is something you perform verbally, something you prove through jokes, stories, or explanations. But real confidence isn't loud. It doesn't rush. It doesn't need permission. It simply exists. When you walk into a room comfortable in your own skin, not scanning for approval, not trying to be noticed, your presence becomes magnetic. Women feel that stillness, that calm certainty, and it immediately sets you apart. Your posture alone tells a story. A man who stands upright, shoulders relaxed, movements unhurried, communicates self-respect without effort. He doesn't fidget, he doesn't shrink, he doesn't overcorrect. His body language says, "I belong wherever I am." This kind of presence triggers attraction because it signals emotional stability. Women are biologically drawn to men who appear grounded and unshaken, men who look like they can handle pressure without collapsing. Eye contact is another silent language that speaks volumes. When a man can hold eye contact without staring, without looking away nervously, without trying to dominate, it communicates inner balance. He's not afraid of connection, and he's not desperate for it either. His gaze is calm, steady, and relaxed. That alone creates tension and curiosity. Most men look away too quickly or compensate by overdoing it. The man who remains composed sends a message of quiet authority. Energy is contagious. If you walk into an interaction carrying anxiety, neediness, or hidden expectations, she feels it immediately. You could say all the right things and still fail because your internal state is leaking through every micro expression, every pause, every movement. On the other hand, when you are emotionally full, when your life feels purposeful and complete, that fullness radiates outward. Women don't fall for words, they fall for how they feel around you. Silence becomes powerful when you are comfortable inside it. Most men fear silence because it exposes their insecurity. They rush to fill gaps with talking, jokes, or explanations, hoping to control the moment. But silence is only uncomfortable when you are uncomfortable with yourself. When you're at ease, silence becomes a weapon. It creates space, it builds anticipation, it allows her to project meaning onto you. Mystery is born not from hiding, but from restraint. A man who is centered doesn't react emotionally to everything. He doesn't flinch at uncertainty. He doesn't chase reassurance. His emotional control signals maturity and strength. When something doesn't go his way, he remains composed. When attention shifts away from him, he doesn't panic. This non-reactivity communicates abundance. It tells her that your sense of worth isn't tied to external validation. Women are constantly evaluating how a man handles himself under subtle pressure. A delayed response, a distracted moment, a test disguised as indifference. These moments reveal everything. A man whose energy remains steady passes these tests without knowing they exist. He doesn't need to defend himself or prove anything. His calmness is the proof. Your breathing even plays a role. Shallow, rapid breathing signals anxiety. Slow, deep breathing signals control. When you breathe calmly, your nervous system settles, and that calm transmits outward. She feels safe in your presence, not because you said anything reassuring, but because your body is telling her there's no threat, no chaos, no emotional instability. Safety is a foundation of attraction. Another critical aspect of silent attraction is intention, or rather, the lack of visible intention. When a man is clearly trying to impress, trying to get something, trying to win approval, it weakens his energy. Desire collapses under pressure, but when a man enjoys the moment for its own sake, unattached to outcomes, his energy becomes light and inviting. Women sense that freedom and are drawn to it. Confidence without words also comes from self-trust. A man who trusts himself doesn't second guess his presence. He doesn't wonder if he's good enough. He doesn't overanalyze reactions. He's comfortable letting moments unfold naturally. That trust creates a rhythm that feels effortless, and effortlessness is incredibly attractive. Your pace matters. Rushing communicates scarcity. Slowing down communicates abundance. When you move deliberately, speak only when necessary, and allow moments to breathe, you signal that you are not in a hurry to be accepted. You're already complete. This subtle shift in pace changes how women experience you. They feel drawn into your frame instead of pulling you into theirs. Emotional self-sufficiency is at the core of silent attraction. When your happiness doesn't depend on attention, responses, or outcomes, your energy becomes stable. You're no longer trying to extract value from the interaction. Instead, you're offering presence. That offering is rare, and rarity creates desire. Presence means being fully in the moment, not thinking ahead, not rehearsing lines, not worrying about impressions. When you're present, your attention is relaxed but focused. She feels seen without being scrutinized, heard without being interrogated. This balance creates comfort and intrigue at the same time. Men often underestimate how much attraction is built before conversation even starts. By the time you say hello, she's already formed an emotional impression. That impression comes from your walk, your posture, your facial expression, your stillness. Words can enhance attraction, but they rarely create it from nothing. When you are aligned internally, when your actions, emotions, and self-image match, your energy becomes congruent. Congruence is powerful because it feels authentic. Women are extremely sensitive to incongruence. They can feel when a man is pretending, compensating, or performing. But when your internal state matches your external behavior, attraction flows naturally. You don't need to dominate a room to be noticed. In fact, the most attractive men often draw attention precisely because they don't seek it. Their calm stands out in a sea of noise. Their restraint contrasts with overexposure. Their silence becomes a statement. This kind of attraction can't be faked. It's built through self-respect, purpose, and emotional discipline. It comes from knowing who you are and being comfortable with it. When you stop trying to impress and start embodying confidence, your presence does the work for you. Women don't remember every word a man says, but they never forget how he made them feel, and how they feel is shaped long before conversation begins. Your energy sets the tone, your stillness creates the frame, your silence invites curiosity. When you master your internal state, attraction becomes effortless. You no longer chase moments, moments come to you. You no longer perform, you simply exist. And in that existence, without saying anything at all, you become unforgettable. Neediness is the silent killer of attraction, and most men don't even realize when they're broadcasting it. It doesn't always show up as begging or obvious desperation. Often, it hides behind politeness, over-explaining, constant availability, or the urge to prove worth. Women are exceptionally sensitive to this energy. They can feel when a man wants something from them rather than simply sharing an experience. The moment neediness enters the dynamic, attraction starts to drain away. Neediness is powerful because it signals abundance. It tells her that you have options, a life, and an internal sense of value that doesn't depend on her reactions. A man who doesn't need validation carries himself differently. He doesn't rush to respond. He doesn't overreact to silence. He doesn't try to control outcomes. His calm communicates confidence far more effectively than words ever could. When a man is needy, his behavior becomes outcome dependent. He's constantly checking for signs of approval, reading into every look, every delay, every shift in tone. This creates tension inside him, and that tension leaks out through his body language, his voice, and his actions. Even when he tries to hide it, she feels it. Attraction requires emotional freedom, and neediness suffocates that freedom. Neediness begins with emotional self-reliance. When your happiness, identity, and sense of purpose are rooted within yourself, you no longer seek completion from someone else. You enjoy connection, but you don't require it. This distinction is subtle but crucial. Wanting is healthy. Needing is not. Wanting allows attraction to grow naturally. Needing creates pressure that pushes it away. A man who is emotionally self-contained doesn't cling. He doesn't chase reassurance. If she pulls back, he doesn't panic. He remains steady, trusting that what's meant to align will align. This steadiness is incredibly attractive because it reflects inner strength. It shows that you can handle uncertainty without collapsing emotionally. One of the most attractive behaviors a man can display is restraint. Not reacting immediately, not explaining himself unnecessarily, not filling silence just to feel secure. Restraint communicates confidence because it shows you trust yourself and the situation. You're not afraid of losing her because you're not losing yourself in the process. Walking away is one of the clearest expressions of non-neediness. When a man is willing to step back instead of chasing, it flips the dynamic. It shows boundaries, it shows self-respect, it shows that your time and attention are valuable. Women don't chase men who chase them. They chase men who are moving forward with or without them. Availability is another misunderstood concept. Being available doesn't mean being constantly accessible. A man with purpose has a full life. He has commitments, goals, and priorities. He doesn't drop everything to respond immediately. This isn't a tactic. It's a reflection of a well-structured life. When your time is valuable, others feel it. Non-neediness also shows up in how you handle rejection or uncertainty. A needy man internalizes rejection as a reflection of his worth. A non-needy man sees it as information, not identity. He doesn't argue with reality. He accepts it calmly and continues forward. That emotional maturity leaves a lasting impression, even when things don't progress romantically. Approval seeking is another form of neediness that often goes unnoticed. Complimenting excessively, agreeing with everything, avoiding disagreement. All of these behaviors signal fear of disapproval. A man who is comfortable with himself isn't afraid to be authentic. He doesn't mold himself to fit someone else's expectations. He allows his true personality to be seen, trusting that the right person will resonate. When you stop trying to be liked, you become more attractive. This seems counterintuitive, but attraction thrives on polarity and authenticity. A man who stands in his own frame, who has opinions, boundaries, and standards, creates tension and intrigue. Women want to feel chosen, not needed. There's a profound difference between the two. Emotional discipline is central to non-neediness. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means managing them responsibly. You don't dump insecurities onto someone you barely know. You don't seek emotional regulation through external validation. You process emotions internally or with trusted outlets, maintaining emotional balance in romantic interactions. Neediness also affects how you give attention. When attention is given freely but not excessively, it feels valuable. When attention is overgiven, it loses impact. A man who understands this doesn't overinvest early. He allows connection to develop organically, matching energy rather than forcing progression. Women are drawn to men who choose them, not men who cling to them. Choice implies freedom, clinging implies fear. When your presence feels optional rather than obligatory, attraction has room to grow. She feels free to come closer rather than pressured to stay. The ability to be alone without feeling lonely is another powerful signal of neediness. A man who enjoys his own company radiates self-sufficiency. He doesn't use relationships to escape emptiness. He adds someone to an already fulfilling life. This makes him selective rather than desperate, which naturally increases his perceived value. Neediness also means letting go of control. You don't try to manage her emotions, responses, or decisions. You allow her to choose freely. This creates trust and respect. Control and attraction cannot coexist. The more you try to control, the more attraction fades. A man who is needy is comfortable with ambiguity. He doesn't demand clarity prematurely. He allows things to unfold. This patience signals confidence and experience. It shows that you've been here before, and you know that forcing outcomes rarely leads to genuine connection. Ultimately, non-neediness isn't about playing hard to get or withholding affection. It's about genuinely not needing external validation to feel whole. It's about building a life, identity, and emotional foundation that stands on its own. From that place, attraction becomes a byproduct rather than a pursuit. When you embody non-neediness, women feel relaxed around you. There's no pressure to perform, reassure, or manage your emotions. That emotional safety is rare and deeply attractive. It allows desire to grow naturally without force. The paradox is that the less you need, the more you attract. The less you chase, the more they lean in. The less you try to prove, the more your value is felt. Non-neediness isn't a strategy, it's a state of being. And when you truly live from that state, attraction happens without effort, without words, and without compromise. Masculine presence isn't something you announce or force. It's something that is felt the moment you enter a space. It's the quiet certainty in how you carry yourself, the emotional steadiness that doesn't waver with circumstances, and the grounded calm that puts others at ease without you having to explain anything. Women don't respond to noise or bravado the way many men think they do. They respond to presence, deep, centered, unshaken presence that communicates strength, safety, and leadership without a single word. At its core, masculine presence is about emotional regulation. A man who can stay centered in his emotions, regardless of what's happening around him, immediately stands out. Most people are reactive. They mirror moods, chase validation, and get thrown off balance by uncertainty. A man with presence does the opposite. He remains steady. His emotional state doesn't rise and fall based on attention, approval, or outcomes. That stability creates a sense of safety, and safety is a foundation of attraction. Safety doesn't mean being boring or predictable. It means being reliable in your emotional core. Women are instinctively drawn to men who feel like an anchor rather than a storm. When a man is calm under pressure, relaxed in unfamiliar situations, and comfortable with himself, it signals that he can handle life. That competence, even when unspoken, triggers desire. Your physical stillness plays a major role in this. Men who are nervous tend to move too much. They fidget, adjust, shift, and overexpress. Stillness, on the other hand, communicates confidence. When your movements are deliberate and minimal, it signals control. You're not rushed. You're not trying to escape discomfort. You're present. That stillness creates a contrast that draws attention naturally. Eye contact is another pillar of masculine presence. Not the kind that tries to dominate or intimidate, but the kind that is relaxed and grounded. When you can hold eye contact without tension, without needing to look away to regulate your nerves, it communicates emotional maturity. You're comfortable being seen. You're not hiding and you're not chasing. That balance creates polarity. Masculine presence also shows in how you handle silence. Silence makes most people uncomfortable because it exposes their internal state. They rush to fill it with words to regain control. A man who is comfortable with silence demonstrates inner peace. He doesn't need constant stimulation or validation. He allows moments to breathe. In those moments, attraction has space to grow. Women often test masculine presence unconsciously. They may delay responses, shift attention, or subtly challenge boundaries. These aren't games, they're instinctive checks for emotional stability. A man who reacts emotionally fails these tests without realizing it. A man who stays centered passes effortlessly. He doesn't argue with reality. He doesn't take things personally. He remains calm, grounded, and self-directed. Leadership is another expression of presence. True leadership isn't about control, it's about direction. A man with presence knows where he's going, even if the path isn't perfectly defined. He makes decisions calmly. He doesn't over-explain or seek permission. This decisiveness creates trust. When a woman feels she can relax into your direction, attraction deepens naturally. Masculine presence is also deeply connected to purpose. A man without direction feels scattered. His energy is inconsistent. A man with purpose feels anchored. Even when he's quiet, his life force feels focused. Women sense this. They're drawn to men who are moving forward, men whose lives have momentum independent of romance. Your voice, when you do speak, reflects your presence. Calm, steady pacing communicates confidence. Rushing words or overloading conversation signals anxiety. A man with presence speaks when there is something to say, not to fill space. His words carry weight because they are backed by emotional congruence. Another key element is emotional containment. This doesn't mean emotional suppression. It means knowing when and where to express vulnerability. A man with presence doesn't dump emotions impulsively. He processes them responsibly. This creates respect and trust. Emotional volatility repels attraction. Emotional strength amplifies it. Masculine presence also creates polarity by contrast. When a man is grounded and calm, it allows a woman to feel more expressive and fluid. Polarity thrives on difference. The more stable you are in your masculine core, the more space she has to lean into her feminine energy. This dynamic happens naturally when presence is authentic. There's also a spiritual aspect to presence. When you're fully in the moment, not replaying the past or anticipating the future, your awareness becomes magnetic. People feel when you're truly there with them, not distracted, not performing, just present. That level of attention is rare and deeply attractive. A man with presence doesn't rush intimacy. He allows tension to build naturally. He doesn't force connection. He trusts the process. This patience signals confidence and experience. It shows that you don't need instant gratification to feel secure. Masculine presence is reinforced by boundaries. A man who respects himself doesn't tolerate disrespect. He doesn't over-explain his boundaries. He enforces them calmly. This clarity creates respect, and respect fuels attraction. Boundaries aren't walls, they're definitions of self. worth. Another overlooked aspect is how you handle unpredictability. Life is uncertain, people are inconsistent. A man with presence doesn't crumble under unpredictability. He adapts, he stays flexible without losing his center. That adaptability paired with stability is incredibly attractive because it signals resilience. Presence also means not seeking to be understood by everyone. A man who tries to explain himself to gain approval weakens his energy. A man with presence allows misunderstanding if necessary. He doesn't need universal validation. He knows who he is. Women feel this deeply. They feel when a man is rooted in himself versus when he's performing a role. Performance creates tension. Authentic presence creates ease. Ease allows attraction to flow. Masculine presence isn't something you turn on around women. It's how you live. It's how you walk, breathe, decide, and respond to life. When it's integrated into your identity, attraction becomes effortless because it's no longer the goal. It's a natural byproduct. When you embody presence, women don't feel pressure around you. They feel safe, curious, and drawn in. They sense that you can lead without forcing, protect without controlling, and connect without clinging. That combination is rare. Ultimately, masculine presence is about being unshakable without being rigid. Calm without being passive, strong without being loud. When you live from that place, your presence speaks louder than words ever could. You don't need to convince, persuade, or impress. You simply show up as you are, and that is more than enough. Mystery and space are two of the most misunderstood forces in attraction, yet they are among the most powerful when it comes to drawing a woman toward you without effort. Most men believe attraction grows through constant communication, availability, and disclosure. They think the more they reveal, the more connected she will feel. In reality, attraction thrives in the space between moments, in what is left unsaid, and in the emotional room you allow her to step into on her own. When you reveal everything at once, you remove curiosity. Curiosity is the engine of attraction. It's the feeling that there's more to discover, more to unfold, more beneath the surface. Mystery isn't about hiding or playing games, it's about restraint. It's about allowing layers to reveal themselves naturally instead of forcing familiarity too quickly. Silence plays a crucial role here. Silence gives her mind space to wander. When you don't immediately explain yourself, justify your actions, or fill every pause, she begins to project meaning. Her imagination engages, and imagination is far more powerful than information. The stories she creates in her mind often carry more emotional weight than anything you could say. Space also communicates confidence. A man who is comfortable creating distance is a man who trusts his value. He doesn't fear losing attention because he knows his presence is memorable. When you step back instead of leaning in, you reverse the dynamic. She begins to wonder about you, to think about you, to feel the absence you've created. Absence, when paired with value, amplifies desire. Most men collapse space because they are afraid of losing connection. They text too much, explain too much, pursue too hard. This constant availability removes tension. Attraction needs tension to breathe. Without it, interactions become flat, predictable, and emotionally dull. Space reintroduces uncertainty, and uncertainty keeps interest alive. Mystery is also about pacing. Emotional pacing matters just as much as physical pacing. When you rush intimacy, you overwhelm the natural rhythm of attraction. A man who allows things to unfold slowly demonstrates confidence and patience. He's not in a hurry to be chosen because he's already chosen himself. That self-selection is deeply attractive. Women often lean in emotionally when they feel free to do so. If a man is constantly present, constantly seeking reassurance, constantly pushing connection, she feels pressured. Pressure kills desire. Space removes pressure. It allows her to explore her feelings without being managed or monitored. Another aspect of mystery is unpredictability, not chaos, but depth. When you're not easily defined or categorized, interest grows. This doesn't mean being inconsistent or unreliable. It means being multidimensional, having a life, interests, and inner world that don't revolve around her. When she senses that your life has depth beyond the interaction, she becomes curious about where she fits within it. The ability to leave is one of the strongest expressions of mystery and space. When you're willing to walk away calmly, without drama or explanation, it communicates self-respect. It shows that you're not attached to outcomes. This isn't about manipulation, it's about alignment. You don't stay where you're not valued, and you don't chase what doesn't choose you. That clarity creates attraction even in absence. Space also allows emotions to settle and grow. Attraction isn't linear. It rises and falls. When you give space, you allow longing to form. Longing is what draws people back together. Without space, there's no room for longing, only saturation. Mystery is reinforced by not oversharing early. Emotional disclosure has its place, but timing matters. When you reveal too much too soon, you collapse polarity. A man who maintains emotional composure and reveals himself gradually maintains intrigue. He allows trust to build naturally rather than forcing intimacy. There's power in not responding immediately, not because you're trying to play hard to get, but because you're genuinely engaged in your life. When your responses are unhurried, it signals that you're not waiting by the phone. Your life is in motion. That movement is attractive. Space also protects attraction from overfamiliarity. Overfamiliarity breeds comfort, but comfort without polarity turns into boredom. Mystery keeps polarity alive. It reminds her that you're an individual, not an extension of her emotional world. A man who understands mystery doesn't over-explain his intentions. He doesn't narrate the connection. He lets actions speak. He trusts that if the connection is real, it doesn't need constant verbal reinforcement. This trust creates calm confidence. Women often say they want openness and communication, but what they respond to emotionally is balance. Too much openness too soon feels overwhelming. Balanced mystery feels exciting. It allows discovery, which is a core component of attraction. Space also reveals truth. When you step back, you see how she responds. You allow her investment to surface naturally. Chasing clouds judgment, space creates clarity. It shows whether attraction is mutual or one-sided. Mystery isn't about being unavailable. It's about being selectively available. You choose where your energy goes. You don't pour into places that don't reciprocate. That selectivity communicates value. When you master mystery and space, you stop trying to hold attraction together. You allow it to breathe. You allow it to grow organically. You stop managing emotions and start trusting connection. The paradox is that by stepping back, you often draw her closer. By saying less, you say more. By giving space, you create desire. This isn't strategy, it's alignment with how attraction naturally works. In the end, mystery and space aren't tools to control others. They're reflections of self-respect, confidence, and emotional independence. When you live fully, speak intentionally, and allow silence to do its work, attraction becomes effortless. She doesn't fall for what you say. She falls for what she feels in the quiet moments, in the distance, in the unanswered questions. And when you understand this, you no longer chase attraction. You create the conditions for it to come to you.